What does being a sickler mean?
Yeah.
I know the word sick. Stigma, I've come to learn, comes from people not understanding what it
Yes.
means by a person being different.
Yeah.
It says that we don't make it past 18.
Yes.
For sickle cell patients, you
Yeah.
find that now we kind of know how to dance with the pain. Someone might think you're a drug addict because you're asking for a particular medication.
Hi guys, welcome back to A Dose of Health, the podcast where I give you not too much, not too little, but just enough health information to make you make an informed decision. So today I have a lovely guest. Her name is Tracy, and I'll let her introduce herself because I know you'll do it better than I can do it.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So I'm Tracy. I'm a health advocate. I'm a sickle cell warrior.
Ooh.
And I'm a host of a podcast called Crimson Courage, where we speak of stories of resilience, not just of sickle cell warriors, but also of persons living with different kind of chronic illnesses, non-communicable diseases, as well as supportive conversations that include disability, inclusion, and all of that.
Yeah.
And the most important part is the caregiver. So we really advocate for caregiver support.
And that's important because people forget the caregiver.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Karibu sana, Tracy.
Thank you.
So I just want to start off just how we normally do the podcast.
Yes.
And I usually ask all my guests, have you watched Inside Out, the movie, first of all?
Yes, I do.
You have?
It's about emotions.
Yes.
I love joy. Yeah.
Yes. You love joy?
Yes.
I love anxiety. And I know that's problematic. So I just want to ask you today, right now, where are you emotionally?
Okay. I think, there's Inside Out 1, 2, and 3.
You take your pick. Take your pick.
So usually in 2 or 3, there are new characters that are formed, like different emotions that were not there before, that are not the basic happiness and all of that. Yeah, so I'm feeling like I'm kind of present.
Okay.
And yeah, acceptance.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow.
That's
On
the
this
emotion.
day of 2025.
Yes.
Let me see. For me, I'm feeling happy. I'm feeling happy to be back.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is part of the second season of the podcast. So I'm really excited to see what this season has for us and how it unfolds.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's great.
All right.
It's
now,
a good balance.
That's good balance.
Yes.
Yes, definitely. And here we like balance. Yeah. So next thing is, I usually ask all my guests, this is your moment, if there's any medical jargon, just maybe one thing that you've always wondered, what does that mean?
Yeah.
I'm here to debunk it for you. Now, please, usiulize kitu ngumu sana.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't think I have medical jargon in mind because, when you live with the condition, you kind of research as you go. You end up knowing a lot of these doctor terms that you're not supposed to know. But, when you're in the doctor's room, you're speaking with the doctor, they're like, hey, okay.
They're like, why do you know too much?
Yeah.
So now, I'll turn it to you.
Yes.
You give us medical jargon. Let me see one, and then you'll break it down for us.
Okay. All right. Maybe one related
to the topic of the day.
Blood disorders or sickle cell. Yes.
Genotype.
Genotype.
Yes.
This is an important one. So genotype means that in your blood, what is it showing? For example, under sickle cell, you have different genotypes. That's SS for sickle cell. You have SF, that's fetal hemoglobin. You have AS, that's a carrier of the sickle cell gene. So one part is normal, one part is a carrier. Then you have AA, which means this is a normal gene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, wow. So it's basically the genes that are expressed in the makeup of your blood cells, in this case for sickle cell, which is blood, yeah. So, hey, Daktari, I should call you Daktari.
No, I have something to ask you though.
Yes.
So when it comes to medical, this is not like jargon, just something that usually happens. What do you think of the medical, like kind of clinical tests? Or clinical, they're called clinical research, I think, yes.
Or like clinical trials.
Yes, trials, yes. Yeah.
Well, I would say they are necessary to some extent, because that's the way you're able to tell if the product that you're trying to research on actually works or if it doesn't work. I think there are areas where ethics sometimes is forgotten, which is something that needs to be highlighted. But where it's done ethically, I think it's very important, especially for the evolving world of medicine.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you want innovative, solutions to be able to sort all the conditions we have and to just improve of what we already have. And sometimes the only way to do that is through clinical trials.
Okay.
So if ethics are prioritized, then I am for it. But if ethics are not prioritized, then that's a red flag.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Okay. So now I think we even jumped ahead.
Yes.
I just want to introduce the topic of the day and why you're here today. You'll remind me the date. It's June 19th, right?
Yes, June 19th.
Yeah. So June 19th is World Sickle Cell Day, and we want to just appreciate the day, to create awareness around that day, and to hear from lived experiences, because it's very hard sometimes for you to have an idea of something you've never experienced.
That's true.
Yeah, so if you can have lived experiences, tell us what it really means to live with sickle cell and what the realities are, the highs, the lows, and even just the advances in terms of like medicine and treatment.
Yeah.
So this episode is focused on sickle cell, and Tracy is our sickle cell warrior, and we'll be getting to hear her real lived life experience.
Yes.
Yeah. And I know for many people, you've only heard of sickle cell from the biology class. Like after that, you've had nothing else about it. So we want to take the conversation outside the bio class and bring it now into real life. So what's that?
Yeah.
So now let me just start over with you, Tracy. So what has your experience living with sickle cell been?
Okay. I can say for me, it has been my norm, because that has been my reality.
Yeah.
So how that has looked like, maybe that is kind of different from my peers. Growing up, I used to visit hospital a lot.
Yeah.
And hospital for other children is somewhere that's scary. But for me, I kind of enjoyed it, going to the pediatrics wing, especially when I get admitted. Yeah, so you'd find that definitely getting admitted for me was a norm. That was not a norm for other people. Yeah, but I would enjoy it, because now you have like the rooms are beautiful with, animal paintings, toys.
Yeah.
Outside you have the swings and all of that. You get to eat what you want. It's like a hotel. Yeah, so for me, that was totally different. And also going to see a doctor regularly, sitting there, you're listening in to the conversation. You can hear some terms like, for example, sickler. So these are the kind of things that were shaping my mentality. Like, I'm like, okay, this seems serious, because, my mom is there looking serious. The doctor is like, looking serious. How has she been? Is she taking her medicine? So I'm like, okay, what's going on? What does being a sickler mean? I know the word sick. So does it mean I have the tendency to be sick? Why do I have the tendency to be sick? Anyway.
I mean, the paintings are nice.
The paintings are nice. I'm not in class. So today is different. At least after this, I know I'm going to at least ask for maybe a snack or a little chips. Or
you have to leave with a snack.
Yes. Yeah. So for me, that was it.
Yeah.
Having a different routine. And then in the afternoon, going back to class, whether I'm feeling unwell or not, that was my norm.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the morning, maybe I've woken up with pain. I'm tired. I'll just sleep till when I can be able to wake up. Then in the afternoon, I just told you go to class, go to school. Yeah, and that was my norm. I just go, and they understand. They understand why I was at home. I'm just like, I wasn't feeling well, or I had to go to hospital. Okay, you continue. And I was very lucky, actually, because I'm smart. I did not lag behind in class. I was always the best in languages, sciences. Those were my things. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's like my early life with sickle cell. I didn't really, apart from going through the personal pains and all of that, it didn't really affect me that much.
Yeah.
Yes.
When were you diagnosed? Do you remember?
I cannot remember, but I know, from when I was really young, my mom tells me, like, before I turned 1. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
That was actually quite early.
Yes.
Because I've just been trying to do some research, and I've noticed that not everyone is diagnosed that early.
Yes.
Some people just come to find out a bit later in life when you find yourself in hospital because of the pain, some sudden pain that showed up, and you're just like, oh my gosh. And then you're later told that you have sickle cell.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So what about for school? Like the way people used to have to play sports and it's a bit active.
Yes.
How was that for you, especially now living with the condition? And I know you say that it's not that you're not strong. You're able. But how was that for you? Even just relating with like your classmates and your peers?
kids, generally you want to do what your friend is doing.
Yeah.
Or you want to do what everyone else is doing, because that's childhood. You want to be included in everything. And earlier on, I kind of realized I have to limit myself. Like, for example, even with dressing, when I'm going to school, I have to wear something underneath my, school dress to keep warm and all of that, like my stockings, my socks. Yeah, so just knowing that this is my norm, I have to carry my bottle of water. I have to be hydrated, keep drinking water. Yeah, because if I go home and my bottle is full, why did you drink your water? Yes.
Yeah.
So having just different kind of practices. So when it came to sports, I really didn't get into it that much. I was more of a books person.
Okay.
That was my safe area.
Yeah.
I really loved stories. Even up to now, I really love literature. I always have like books beside my bed. Yeah, that's me. So I don't really think I really faced much difference within school, except that, as we grow up, people are starting to understand, oh, she has sickle cell.
Yeah.
Oh, what is that, And, stigma, I've come to learn, comes from people not understanding what it means by a person being different.
Yeah.
So when a person is different, you kind of feel like people fall back, not because maybe they think bad of you, just that maybe they're not taught how to approach this thing that is different. Yes.
That's actually so true.
Yes.
And now you've mentioned some things like dressing warm, drinking water. Let me see if you remember. Let me refresh your memory. What are some of the triggers for a sickle cell crisis? And we'll get to explain what a crisis is.
Yeah.
What are some of the triggers?
For me, I remember stress.
Yes.
I remember extreme temperatures, either very cold or very warm. You can't just dive into the pool like that, like a normal person. Yes.
Also, you have to just prepare.
Yeah, you have to prepare. You have to look at the weather. If today is a bit cold, you just opt out. You're like, I don't know, today I won't do swimming.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so you have to be really self-aware and like your triggers. Like sometimes if you overexert yourself, maybe games time, you are in the sun for too long, or you forgot to drink your water. Yes, those are some of the triggers.
Yeah, others now, because you've talked about water a lot. So dehydration is also a trigger.
Yes.
Is there one? And then low oxygenation. So for instance, if someone wants to hike up the mountain, and of course there's low oxygen up there, so that's also a trigger. And why I'm asking this is because just to give them a backstory of like how sickle cell comes about, it's basically when your cells, your red blood cells, they decide to take a different shape.
Yes.
So normally your red blood cells, let me look at the camera now and I'm explaining. The red blood cell is discoid. It's what we call discoid. So it looks like a coin and it's like cushioned in the center. That's a normal red blood cell shape. But when you have sickle cell, the disease, there are certain instances where the cell changes the shape. So it becomes like a moon. What was that moon?
A crescent moon.
A crescent moon, yeah. And because of that, it has a reduced oxygen carrying capacity. So now all these things lead to now some of the symptoms that she was talking about. So they get fatigued a lot because they're not able to carry enough oxygen in that blood. Then other things can now contribute to sickling, to the red blood cells changing that shape.
Yes.
So one is deoxygenation. So for instance, if you're hiking and there's not enough oxygen up there, that's also a risk. Then dehydration, overexertion. So that's why she was talking about the weather. She's talking about hydration.
Yes.
So just to give them a backstory to make them understand.
Yeah.
Okay, now we've talked about your childhood. Now transitioning into adulthood. How has that been for you, even like moving into the workspace?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So actually something that I didn't mention, I remember.
Yeah.
You remember I said I was very good in sciences.
Yes.
So when I was in Form 2, I had the habit of always reading ahead. Because
you were those students? You were those ones? She's like, who has read ahead today?
No, but I would not say it. I knew how to,
you know, let the rest
present
look bad.
myself. Yeah. But definitely I've gone ahead.
Yes.
So this is Form 2. This is biology, the biology book.
Yeah.
This is around page 18, 19. So I saw like just a paragraph that mentioned sickle cell. So I got excited. I was reading. Then I was like, oh, it says that we don't make it past 18.
Yes. And look at you, here you are, past 18.
Yeah. So now I was a bit worried. Now, when my peers get to this point, what will they think of me? Or what does this even mean for myself? So you find that even in communication, in education, there's a lot of things that maybe people might think are facts, but they actually create a lot of stigma. And they do a lot with, tampering with the mental health of someone who might be affected.
Yeah.
So even if you look at books, when it talks about maybe disability, it does not portray it in a way that is empathetic. So it's really important now when it comes to communication. How do you, translate something to, because this is the first time maybe most of them were coming across sickle cell, and this is a book and it's a science book and it's a fact.
Yes.
So it means my desk mate might not make it past 18.
Imagine.
Yeah, so what does that mean to the person who's relating to you? And what does that mean also for yourself? So that's even how I got into Crimson Courage. When it now comes to communication, I started thinking, okay, what is sickle cell called maybe even in Swahili? Most people don't know.
What is it?
It's selimundu.
Most people
don't know.
Yeah.
So even from this, we got to make a radio drama called Mashujaa wa Selimundu. It's on our YouTube channel on Crimson Courage. You can find it.
We'll definitely link it.
Yeah, so it's just about a student called Lola. She's in school. People are not understanding why she's sick. Why does she seem lazy? She's sleeping on the desk. Why is she late to class? The teachers are punishing her, corporal punishment and all of that. Yeah, so those kinds of miscommunication when it comes to like health condition is what now creates things that go to the extreme of maybe stigma or go to the extreme of maybe, being left behind or left out. Like maybe when dealing with a disability, like let's say deaf, you find that they are only included in what is most important. Maybe this person has eaten, go and sleep. In between, they're not involved in what is going on. Yeah, so this is how we are able to understand each other and break stigma. So communication is really a big part of what we do.
It is.
So you have to think about that child in Turkana, because Turkana is an area with water, large water body. Meaning there's a lot of sickle cell there. Because if you look at the way sickle cell biologically comes about, it's even in Kenya along the coast, along Nyanza, around large water bodies. So you have to think Turkana. Most probably it's there. Do they know what it is? What do they call it?
Has anyone ventured there?
Do they think it's witchcraft?
Probably.
Are they blaming one side of the family and, saying this woman is bringing us kids who are falling ill or dying early? You see? So communication is really important. And we are really trying to put out the message out there and even collaborate with different organizations who can help us, shine that light and make our voices louder.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. So is there any project you've worked on, any collaborations you'd want to share more about that you've worked with?
So for June 19th, which is World Sickle Cell Day, us will be having a live recording event at the iHub. Actually, it will be on June 20th to allow everyone to be able to join, because probably 19th, a lot of people will be
it's a Friday
in different,
or something.
In different events. So June 20th is a Friday.
I'm so sorry to say that this episode will come out after that day, but I'll make sure we post it on social media so people can actually get to see and hopefully attend.
Okay. So it's just a day for warriors to come. We're the ones who are managing the day. We're the ones who are deciding what you want to talk about. We're the ones who are recognizing like various organizations that help warriors or take part in supporting warriors. We are recognizing them. We are asking them questions. We are telling them, what do we want them to do more for us? Or what do we not understand about what they're doing? So it's a day for us to celebrate our resilience, because we're strong.
You're able and capable.
Yes.
I really like what you've said about bringing yourselves into the conversation. Because many a times, even me from the health perspective, when we look at how the systems are structured and built, it's like the patient is left outside. And you are the main part or you and me, let me not just point fingers, you and me are the main part of the healthcare system. So it's very important for you to make decisions in relation to what we're going through, or just consider us when you're making the decision, so that it's not like a deaf decision that's been made. I really like that. And now you said myths, facts, you said many things. I have a few questions here. You'll tell me if it's a fact or it's fiction. Okay, let me start. Sickle cell only affects Black people. Fact or fiction?
Fiction.
Good. Who else does it affect?
It affects, I think, everyone, because even I follow some Americans who have it. I mean, like white Caucasians who have it. Yeah, so it affects everyone. A lot of the population that's affected in the world with sickle cell is found in India. Yes.
Yeah, that's true. Yes. Predominantly Black people, Caribbean, Mediterranean, and Asians.
Yeah, that's the importance of knowing your genotype, because now, it's now moving to areas which were not expected. It wasn't expected for it to be. Yes, because of that genotype. Maybe you might have the genotype, your husband has it, but you've never checked for it. Then you end up having, a child who is SS.
And it's not your fault. Yes. Because we might be leaving some people behind. Let's talk about why it's important for you to know your genotype as an individual.
Yes.
Yeah, explaining what sickle cell, the trait is, what it means to be a carrier, what it means to be living with the disease, what it means to not have the trait or be a carrier of the disease.
Yeah.
Do you mind telling us a bit about that?
Okay, so most people don't understand what it means to have the trait. So this means genotype is AS. So A, one gene is normal, S is sickle cell. So you're just a carrier of the gene. So in most people, they don't show the symptoms. Like maybe they don't experience painful crises. Yeah, for them, they just carry the gene. So this means that if you're an AS and your partner is an AS, the biology cross whatever
that thingy.
Yes. A lot of your children will have AS and SS. So SS means sickle cell. Yeah, so that's the importance of knowing your genotype, because maybe you don't know your grandfather at that time. Maybe he had SS, but he was managing na miti shamba. Or no one ever knew what it was. Yeah, maybe your grandma too alikuwa naumwa na mgongo sana. She had that tendency of getting a lot of pain in the knees and all of that, and no one knew. Then it got passed down the generations. Maybe your dad is AS. And then you end up maybe carrying the gene as well. Then because you've never known, you get a spouse who also carries the gene. So it's really important to go and do like an electrophoresis test. This is what can definitely tell you the kind of gene you have and in what percentage, so that you can make the right decisions for yourself.
That's true.
And for the future generation.
That's true.
Yeah.
Okay, now let me take it back, because you've used a bit big words.
Yeah.
For now, breaking it down simply, you mentioned now the trait. So when someone has the sickle cell in general is an autosomal recessive trait, meaning you need both genes to have mutated for you to actually have the disease. Now that's the SS you are talking about. But for someone who is AS, this means only one of the genes, and we didn't even explain where these genes are. The genes are in your hemoglobin, which is the oxygen carrying vehicle in your blood. So when there's a mutation in one of the proteins in your hemoglobin, then you have the sickle cell trait. But if there's a mutation in both of them, then now you have SS, which is now you have sickle cell disease. So you need to have two of the genes for you to be said to have sickle cell disease, but only one will make you have the trait. So that's the difference. And then now, when it comes to reproducing, because at the end of the day, I mean, humans, reproduction. So if both partners have sickle cell the disease, then the children will have sickle cell the disease, because that's just the science behind it. But if you have one carrier and another carrier, then the likelihood of them having a child with sickle cell disease, if you remember, it's 1/4. So one child will have sickle cell disease, 2 children will have the trait, and then 1 child will not have the trait or the disease.
That's true.
So that's why it's very important for you to know your genotype, as she's saying, so that you can just tell what is the future looking like for you if you marry someone who, for instance, has the trait and you have the trait as well. But also at the same time, it's good for you to know your genotype, so that in case you have sickle cell, the disease, you can be treated as early as possible. Now, We've talked about symptoms. You've said crisis here and there.
Yeah.
What are some of the symptoms that you've experienced or that are common to sickle cell?
So they're different. It shows itself differently in different patients. However, for me, what has been constant is jaundice. So you find, because our blood, the kind of shape, like you said, it's different. So it's breaking down a lot.
Yes.
And one of the products when blood breaks down is bilirubin.
Science.
This is that yellowness, when blood breaks down in the liver. Yes. So, you find in a lot of sickle cell warriors or patients, a lot of them have jaundice. And this is a condition that you can only manage. So for me, that's when I used to be told, drink a lot of water. It will clear. But it's just there. It can become like completely white. Yeah. So also because of the blood breaking down, sometimes you might find you get sickle cell crisis. So crisis feels different in different people.
Okay.
So some say that it feels like glass is moving through your veins. For me, I usually say it feels like, when you knock your knee on the corner of a coffee table. That kind of pain being constant inside. And it varies in it can be a bit extreme, it can be a bit low, in such a way that, yes, you're in pain, like maybe you're having back pain, but you can function with it. So for sickle cell patients, you find that now we kind of know how to dance with pain. You kind of have to understand how to function with pain. And this is why actually sickle cell in some countries is considered to be a disability. Because number one, you can't control when you'll be in pain. Number two, it's not your wish, it's not your will. And number three, because of the complications of the blood, it can lead to some patients or some sickle cell warriors developing even physical disabilities, because whereby maybe some organs are affected or some joints are affected, like maybe the hip joint, then you need to get a hip replacement. That already is like a disability. So you find in Kenya, now when it gets to such extremities, is when now a sickle cell patient can now apply for the disability card. However, that's not fair. That's not fair to everyone. Because you see already when it comes even to work, already when I was in school, as I shared, sometimes I'll have to miss half a day of school because I'm in hospital or I just woke up with pain. Like right now it's June. You find a lot of sickle cell warriors will get painful crisis because of the weather.
Cold,
it's cold. And they cannot control that because no one wants to, wake up in pain. No one wants to, decide tomorrow because it's Friday. I won't be okay. No, that's not how it goes. And it's not a choice. Because life is like a lottery. You get what you were born with. Yes. So when it comes to Kenya, I really want for sickle cell to be given more consideration when it comes to that area of disability, because now it will be able to, create more space for us, because it's not that we cannot function in the workspace. It's just that we need more flexibility. We need, we need more of that space. We need more of that understanding. Because if you find like for disability, some things like the people can apply, like let's say I had the president speaking about some positions that he's provided for persons with disability on Madaraka Day. And he was saying that it's allowed for persons with disability up to 35 to apply. But for any other person, I think it was like up to 30 years old. So you see, at least it creates that space for you to be able to catch up with your peers in areas whereby you had to be left behind a bit because, you are managing your health, you are going to hospital, you are maybe in hospital for some time, like maybe in the ward. Yes.
And funny you say that. Okay, not funny, but I should use a different word there. But as I mentioned, you were supposed to be two here. So that you were supposed to have two warriors. But just because of what you've said, now the other guest had a crisis, unfortunately, and was not able to attend. And such things, she didn't plan for it. It just happened, and now she has to deal with it. And I was just listening to some podcasts around sickle cell as I was preparing, and I stumbled across one that's based in the UK. And it's so interesting that they have these flexibilities provided to them by their health system. So they have things such as I forget the actual name, but it allows you to have things like a taxi when it's cold, because being outside in the rain, waiting for the bus, taking the train, you're being exposed to so much cold during the cold season, and that can actually aggravate you to have a crisis. So that is provided for them. Then even ergonomics in their workspaces, because of some of the disabilities you've mentioned, like for instance, the hip replacements that some people need to have, the back pain. So like your whole station can be allocated for a certain amount of money so that it can be made comfortable for you, the flexible working. So these things are really thought about in other systems, and it would be nice to see thought about in our system as well.
Exactly.
There's another one that's questionable. I don't know where you stand here, but they have something called a CAN card.
Okay.
And this allows them to have medicinal marijuana because of the pain of the crisis.
Yes.
And I was just like, if you've talked about you just live with the pain, if there's something that can allow you to not just live, but to thrive, I'm not saying medicinal marijuana, it might work for some people, but just something that allows you to be able to operate at your full potential despite you living with this condition and some of the effects that it brings about.
Yeah.
So hopefully you'll be an advocate for this, and in the next few years we'll see change because of Crimson,
Yeah, definitely. And different things, yes.
Yeah.
True. Different things work for different people.
Yes.
You find even medications, some people, maybe the medication that they are supposed to take doesn't work for them.
Okay.
Yeah. Or maybe, for some people, painkillers, opioids.
Yeah.
They don't work the way they're supposed to work, or they're addictive.
Yeah, the addictive part as well.
What is the other option? Is it because marijuana is illegal now, it means I have to get addicted to, like maybe getting morphine or pethidine, which the side effects. Yeah, so these are conversations that we need to have. These are variations that we are supposed to be able to access.
Yeah.
Because, you should not be limited in a way that you yourself, you didn't choose to. Yeah, you didn't choose to.
Yeah.
So now if I don't choose to take opioids, like for me, for example, how my body reacts to, like maybe when I get a shot of even tramadol, I panic.
Okay.
Yes, I panic. So now this means that I have to get a painkiller that is slow release. Or it means that I have to get used to maybe other methods, like maybe meditation or all of that. And this can be a bit dangerous because now let's say I've refused and I'm in a lot of pain.
Yeah.
That leads me to maybe somewhere, that's not good. Yeah. So we need these allowances and variations to allow us to live.
Yeah.
We want to live. We want to enjoy life. Yes. I want to go out on a Friday. I don't want to stay in because I'm cold and all of that, you know. Or I don't want to, suffer some things because of stigma. Yes. Yeah, we should be given that allowance to be able to access some of these things that can help us do and enjoy life like anyone else. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I just remembered something because, sometimes disability many times is very visible.
Yeah.
But for someone who is living with sickle cell, you can be saying, I'm in so much pain, but you look fine.
Exactly.
So that's another thing that also limits people's ability to understand what exactly is happening, because you're just but you look fine. What do you mean you're in severe pain? Yeah. So has that been something for you, where either your pain is downplayed or someone treats you this is not so serious? I mean, she came in walking. Has that been something you've experienced, especially in our system?
Yeah, definitely. Now, when it comes to hospital, someone might think you're a drug addict because you're asking for a particular medication. Because my experience is for example, let's say, paracetamol maybe might not work for you. So that maybe a certain drug, when you're like this, when you're experiencing a certain kind of pain, hey, morphine is what will work for me. Don't waste my time. Just give me morphine. But now it might look like, this one.
She just wants another dose.
For a hit.
Yeah. Okay,
So there are
true.
those challenges even in hospital where you're told, you're making noise.
Yeah.
Why are you screaming for everyone?
And you're like, I'm in pain. Like, for real, I'm in pain.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Apart from that, what's been your experience with the healthcare system?
For me, at least I can say I've been lucky because all my life I was able to, be under a medical scheme that allowed me to get the treatment that I needed. However, the more I interact with people, the more I realize that not everyone was able to, access the right kind of treatment that they needed. However, this might be a bit controversial.
Speak on gear.
In Kenya, especially in our medical systems, if you have a certain type of medical cover, they tend to prescribe the most expensive treatments.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is
Look
not
at the
good.
camera directly and just say
it's not good. You cannot be prescribing for a young, child a certain level of antibiotics. What do you want them to now take?
Unless needed.
Yeah, so now, there are now those kind of complications whereby maybe someone could have treated themselves using maybe a certain dietary, specification, but they're told, go for surgery. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So when it comes to the medical health system, especially for persons who need to access regular care, there needs to be that balance whereby now the doctor is not really pushing for, the highest that the medical scheme can allow for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, that's true. That's still under overutilization because, and I usually wonder, like, people are very quick to buy brand medication, while sometimes the generic is exactly the same, just cheaper, and it'll do the exact same thing. Like, there's no difference. Sometimes there's a difference, but most of the time they're doing the same thing. So I feel like even when you go to a pharmacy, sometimes you'll notice when you're buying any medication, they'll start with the most expensive one. Yeah. And if you don't ask them, is there anything else that's slightly cheaper but still the same? They will make sure you buy that expensive one. So also this awareness, especially
but why do they do that?
I would say business is business.
Okay.
I don't know why they do that, but I would assume business is business.
Yes.
And even them, they're trying to push certain products. But it's good for people to have this awareness that you can ask for what suits you, not only just your health, even your pocket. What suits you, because sometimes there are options that you can have and then you decide based on your needs. And remember, finance is also a need, and then decide just what is the most suitable for you.
Okay.
We didn't finish. I digressed, but I had other facts. Let me see. People, this one we've answered. People with sickle cell can't live past 18. We've answered that's fiction.
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise you would not be here.
Yeah, a 75-year-old
Oh, wow.
guy. He's a teacher who has sickle cell in Kenya.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So we make it past.
We are changing that one.
Yes.
They do make it past childhood.
Yes.
Okay. Then the other one is you can tell someone who has sickle cell by just looking at them.
Not necessarily.
That's the answer I was looking for.
Yes.
Yeah. So now you mentioned that sometimes, like the jaundice, is it a problem, or do you feel a certain type of way or stigma when people are like, why are your eyes yellow?
The one of the good things about being young is that you don't care.
That's
so
true.
When I was younger, I really did not care. I was like, why are you asking me that? Or some would be like, your eyes are so pretty. They're like that of a cat,
Oh, wow. Okay, okay. That's a nice way to put it.
Yes, yeah. Okay. So it also depends on how you approach it. Definitely. If you're coming towards it like in a way that there's something wrong. Yes, I will not, maybe I'll not answer or maybe I'll just ignore you. Yeah, or I'll give you an answer that goes with, your level of...
Don't say intelligence.
Okay. Or even some I've found some that even assume I'm using drugs. That's why my eyes are yellow. Yeah, so you see, because of lack of knowledge, you can go through a lot.
That's
so
true.
You have to be very hardcore.
That's true. Clearly, I can tell you've built yourself.
Yes. Yeah. So mentally, there are highs and lows.
Yeah.
So it depends also on how you find someone. That's why you have to be very careful. Maybe you found me on a bad day.
That's true.
And your comment will just hit me and stick with me longer than it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Or maybe my ways of coping are not that good. I'll give you
lash out.
Yes, I'll give you a really bad comment, and also you'll go back home thinking, what's wrong with me? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's just everyday balance. Yeah. Everyday balance. When living with a condition, it's everyday balance.
Yeah.
Because you'll have to find ways in which you can release and let go. You'll have to find that you become very responsible early on, because you're like, now what if I pick up like drinking?
Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Or addiction to smoking.
Yeah.
It will create more problems.
More problems, yeah.
Yes, that I do not need.
That's true.
What if I pick up a wrong relationship? It will create more problems for me. Now I'll have to deal with anxiety, which will trigger stress, which will trigger a painful crisis.
Yeah.
So now I had to become like, more of self-protective.
That's true.
I have to, before you become my friend, I have to understand your psychology of how you think and how you make choices. It can't be that such that I go to a place with you, then maybe you abandon me. Then I'm like, I didn't expect that. No, I have to know, this is a person who behaves like this, like that. If we go to such an area, if something goes wrong, at least, yes, I'll know what to do. Yeah.
So you're very intentional.
Yes, you have to be very intentional.
Wow.
But when you're young, being intentional is not
hard.
Cool. It's not cool. It's boring.
That's true.
Yes.
Did you feel like, because like at night it's cold, so maybe you have to be in the house, did you feel a bit left out when like kids are growing up and they're doing fun things? Did you feel left out at all?
A bit. But also, you see, I had a good crowd.
Yeah.
Okay. So if we're going out, I'll put on my trench coat and my boots. Okay. And we'll go. And we'll have fun.
And have a good time.
I will dance, but I will not drink.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But I'll be the life of the party. Yeah. So you see. Yeah. I had to balance.
Okay.
Just.
You mentioned something about relationships. I had someone being asked this in a podcast I was watching.
Okay.
Now, because you're living with sickle cell, is choosing your partner something you're very, very intentional about?
Yeah. Being a warrior means you have to be intentional. You have to do what is good for you.
Yeah.
If even in the kitchen, I'm cooking this, to bitter herbs. I call them bitter herbs because of my childhood.
Vegetables?
Yes, those bitter herbs. So if I'm making them and eating them, because I know they're good for me, so why should I let someone who is not stable enter my psychology? I will try as much as possible not to.
Okay.
Even though you can't control the heart.
That's true.
But I'll try as much as possible not to.
Yeah.
And the person has to be very good at communication. At the very least. Yeah, just be good at
the very least.
At the very
communication
least.
is so important, by the way.
Yes.
Yeah. Now let me take it a step further.
Okay.
Now, if in terms of genotype, are you specific in choosing your partner? Let me just take a few steps back as why I'm asking this question. In some countries, they're very particular on who can marry who in terms of your genotype. Do you have the trait? Are you a sickler? And what's your partner's genotype? So like in some countries, like Nigeria, they're very particular about it.
Yes.
You have to know your genotype first before you marry, because they're trying to reduce the number of people living with sickle cell.
Yeah.
I know Bahrain. Hey, how do you say that country? That one up there. And some other countries in the Middle East, they're very particular, and you have to be tested before you actually get married. Not that marriage is illegal, but you actually just have to know your genotype first.
Yes.
What about for you?
I think it's responsible for you to know your genotype. Personally, I think it's irresponsible for you to have sickle cell and go ahead and procreate with someone who also has sickle cell.
But you've just said the heart sometimes wants what the heart wants.
Yes, but you have to make the responsible choice.
Okay.
You have to make the responsible choice. Okay. Yes, emotionally, you might get each other because you're going through the same things. Yeah, but Just be friends.
Okay.
You know, people choose spouses for very petty things. Like maybe I can choose a guy because he drives a Mercedes, and the one I have drives a Toyota, and I don't want that.
Sorry to all Toyota drivers. Please keep up. Mko sawa.
So I might choose a guy because he drives a Porsche 911.
Hey, how did the number you know? Wow.
So
yeah.
And we are millions and millions of people
in the world. That's true. Actually, billions.
Yes.
That's true.
So you can make the right choice.
Okay.
You can steal yourself emotionally.
Yeah.
Love is kind of like an emotion. I think so.
I think it is an emotion.
It's hard to define.
Yeah.
Or put a finger on it, but you have to think of it in an all-rounded way, because you have to look at the future.
Yeah. I think also just based on your own experience, you're also just like, okay, I'm looking to the future and I know what I want and probably what I don't want. Yeah,
what's the future of also these children, if you want children?
That's true.
Yes. What is their future?
Now let me twist. Treatment-wise, how has treatment been for you? Especially living in Kenya.
Yeah.
And maybe because you said you were in a scheme, and if you don't mind, you can tell us a bit more about the scheme, but also because you've interacted with other warriors, if you can tell us like what the reality is, even outside the scheme, like for the typical Kenyan living with sickle cell. Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy because the blood regenerates for a normal person after every 120 days. But if you have sickle cell, you find your blood breaks down every 10 to 15 days. So this means that you need a lot of support.
Yeah.
Medically, you need a lot of support. So, for example, one of the amazing treatments that I see like abroad they can actually access for free is blood exchange. But when you come here in Kenya, blood exchange is expensive.
Yeah.
I think in Nairobi Hospital, it's 120K. So if you're having like a normal medical cover, like let's say with AAR, inpatient is usually around that price, right? So now if I need blood exchange at least every other month, how will I afford it? How will I afford? And I need it.
Yeah.
And I need it to function. I need it to go to work. I need it to thrive out there. So these are the things that need to be considered. So now for a person who does not have the medical cover or cannot afford, not everyone can afford to pay like let's say in a year, 150K so that you can get the medical cover inpatient and outpatient.
Yeah.
Now what do they do when they go to hospital? What medications can they access? Your guess is as good as mine, because if you're operating on Panadol, paracetamol, you're suffering. That's it. You're really suffering.
Yeah.
Yeah, because if now like hydroxyurea, right now at least it's a bit affordable because you can find one pill for like 15 shillings, 25. Previously it was like 70. Then you have hydroxyurea, then you have folic acid. Yeah. Like a normal household, I think in Kenya, they usually say they survive on under $1. So how are they surviving with their child who has sickle cell?
Yeah. That's true. And actually, and even like for hydroxyurea, depending on your regimen, it might be more than one pill.
Exactly.
So that 15 bob can become 60 bob very fast. Yeah. And it's an everyday thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And even if you look at provisions, like for example, with Shift Shah for persons with sickle cell, I think for the whole year was like around 5,000. What can you do with that?
Yeah. The chronic disease.
Yes.
The allocations it was like one visit.
Yeah.
And that's supposed to last you the whole year.
That.
Yeah, that's true. And even the folic acid, because you've talked about exchange transfusion,
yes.
and that's even stepping further. Because we could even just start from blood transfusion. And we know many Kenyans are not yet at that point where they are donating blood regularly. So there's very many instances where there's shortages of blood.
Yes.
But as for someone living with sickle cell, you need blood transfusions a bit more frequently than any other person would need.
Yeah.
So even that in itself, before we get to exchange transfusion, there's still a question mark.
Yes.
And this is my call to action, and I'll do it many times this season. Guys, I am recruiting. We need regular blood donors. Blood donation is so simple. It's so how many times have you Have you donated blood? You can't
No,
donate
no,
blood,
I can't.
Yeah. So now, for me, I've donated once.
Okay.
And because of that, it has made me want to donate again.
Okay.
Yeah, but I was very scared at first. But that's something that can actually help someone who is living with sickle cell just improve their quality of life.
Yeah.
Because they break down their red blood cells so fast, and it's not as fast. They're not replacing them as fast as they're breaking them down.
Yes.
So the blood transfusion takes them a longer way. But it also has its downsides as well, because you get things like iron overload.
Yes.
So living with sickle cell it's not a walk in the park.
It's not.
So when you're calling yourself warriors, then you guys are warriors.
Yes,
you
warriors.
guys are warriors.
You're warriors.
Yeah.
Because now you've come from, life is like a story. Life, how you experience life is according to the storyline that you pick, kind of. So now imagine the storyline that got picked for you is you have a condition, you have to go to hospital regularly, you experience unwarranted pains. Even in hospital, they don't accept you. Maybe you're called a sickler.
Yeah.
Already, mentally, it's not a good one. That's why we changed and said we are warriors.
Okay.
Yes, being called a sickler and all of that.
Yeah.
You get used to the norm that your tendency is always being sick.
Yeah.
Then you go to church, they're like, tutakwekelea mkono upone.
They don't understand the science.
They don't understand the science.
Yeah.
But also you now coming from faith, you also don't understand why can't you heal me? Yeah. I'm always praying to you every day. Why can't you heal me?
Yeah.
So already, mentally, that does a lot. Tightens that knot of stigma.
Yeah.
You go to school, maybe because of jaundice. People don't want to katia you. People don't want to play football with you or whatever.
Oh, she's slow. She can't be in our team. Yes. She'll just get tired so fast.
She'll just get tired. What if she falls and gets sick or something like that? A tighter knot of stigma. You grow up.
Yeah.
Maybe you go to the workspace. Right about when you're about to get like maybe a promotion, you fall ill. Promotion gone. You have to start from chini 10, coming back up. It's a lot. So that means also for persons with different conditions, like even sickle cell, we need a lot of mental support.
That's true.
That we can access.
That's true.
How will you access with that 5,000?
Question I'll address it in the meeting tomorrow. But that's a very relevant point. Yeah.
Yes.
How have you, apart from just like building your own self mentally, what are some of the avenues in terms of mental support that you've sought?
Definitely there's support groups. Because in support groups, you find people who are dealing with the same thing as you. You find people you can give advice and tell, it will be better.
Yeah.
And that also does something to you because, when you're supporting another, service. There's a lot of pride that comes in service. So that's even how I became a Rotarian, to help, pass my message, that one of know your genotype.
Yeah.
And see if we can do more projects on that. So for me, it's kind of come whereby now I'm not looking at myself. I'm looking at how I can support others.
Wow.
Yes.
Okay.
Do you like stories?
I do.
Can I tell you a story?
Tell me one. Story come.
Okay, so there's a really nice story called The Happy Prince.
Okay.
So the Happy Prince was a prince who grew up in a castle with high walls, and he was happy because the kind of life he was enjoying was that of he got everything during the days he would spend it in the garden, painting and enjoying the environment. At night he would lead the dances and all of that. So it was a beautiful life.
Yeah.
He was the happy prince, and he was smiling and happy, and everyone loved him because he was the happy prince. Then he passed away. And a big statue of him was built in the middle of the city. So this statue was beautiful. It was all gold. The eyes were rubies. The sword, he was holding a sword like this. Inside there were also like jaspers, like different kind of unique stones.
Yeah.
And then there was a bird. There was a certain bird just within the city. Now this bird, I've forgotten the kind of bird it is. A swallow, yes. So
let me picture it in my head.
Yes. So the swallow fell in love with a reed. That's a female swallow.
Okay.
So the reed loved its home, the pond. And it did not want to leave. But the swallow does not survive winter. So it was like, I have to go with my bros,
Yeah.
We are going to Egypt. We're going to look at the pyramids and all of that. So it got left behind because it loved this reed. Then it was like, this reed doesn't really love me. It's selfish. Because if it loved me, it would join me and my bros to our trip. And, we go see the world and all of that. Then she was like, no, me, I'll stay. So, of course, it did what men do. It was like, whatever. Me, I'll go. Let me go and join my people and all of that. Then it left the lady. Because I thought this is kind of selfish. Because if you love the reed, why don't you stay with the reed and make a life with it? So it left. So on its way, it stopped at the statue of the Happy Prince. And drops kept falling on it. He thought, what is this? I can't even get shelter under a statue. So it went up to check. Then it found the prince was crying. The Happy Prince was crying. So the Happy Prince shared that from where he was standing, it was able to see all over the city and the suffering the people are going through. There's a certain lady, she's a seamstress. Her hands, they're a bit painful because, of sewing. And on the bed next to her, there's a boy who is sick with fever. Just take one of my rubies on the sword and take it to the boy. So it was like, no, I don't want to, and all of that. Okay, but let me take it. So through that, the Happy Prince, the statue kept sending the bird on different tasks. Take the ruby out of my eye and take it to this person. They need help. There's a hungry person and all of that. So through flying all over the city and delivering these precious stones for help, it was able to see the kind of support that people need. Yes, on this side of Uptown where the statue of the Happy Prince is, people are rich. They're enjoying, they're, wearing the dresses that are fabulous, that are made by this seamstress and all of that. So basically it was just a story of being aware of your surrounding. By being aware of your surrounding, you get to understand the point of life. Because the Happy Prince was like, I didn't understand life living in the castle. But now that I'm outside, I understand, that disparity. And the joy comes from service. Because it was very happy despite going blind from getting the rubies removed and donating it to the people who needed it. So this is the story of Crimson Courage. We are pushing ourselves to communicate the kind of support that people need, which is quite simple. Yes.
Wow.
Yeah. So you just going out there and doing what you can, helping people to understand, even with the podcast like this. You're like the Happy Prince.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. If I had money, I'd be like, pitch, done. Here, take my money. But yeah, it's true. It's true. Sometimes we sit in our own shells and you don't realize what's happening around you.
Yes.
Yeah, so I love that. And keep doing what you're doing.
Okay.
I know it's almost 1 hour now, but you could talk so much about sickle cell. We've just brushed the surface. Asa tujaingia ndani so much. But thank you for coming. Hopefully we'll have this conversation again, just so that people can get to understand what exactly is sickle cell and in what way can we support and help those who are living with the condition. And so the first one is donating blood, guys. Donate blood. Now, as we end, what's something you'd want the people to know about living with sickle cell? Or I'll just call it your dose of health, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be related to the topic. What's your dose of health for the day?
Okay. My dose of health for the day is love one another, notice one another, see each other's need of support, be there, be that person who makes a change for someone, educate someone, encourage someone. That's my dose of health.
Wow. Asha mimi sisemi yangu, by the way. That's it. That's it. So thank you so much for coming.
Yes.
We'll share where can people find you?
Okay. On TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Crimson Courage. Yes.
And the podcast?
Yes, Crimson
YouTube?
Courage as well,
Okay.
YouTube.
We'll put all the links.
Yes.
And we are happy as a dose of health to celebrate World Sickle Cell Day. And we hope that this continues just supporting where we can and just encouraging you and the people within your community that you are able, and keep living, keep thriving, and keep soaring.
Thank you.
So guys, that's it for today. Thank you so much for reaching the end. Please be sure to interact with us on our various platforms. That's Instagram, that's TikTok, that's YouTube. In fact, if you haven't subscribed, just press the button now. I'll wait. Thank you.
And we've spoken for long.
Cynthia.
Yes.
But the funny thing is we could continue.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can come back anytime, by the way. September.
September, World Sickle Cell. We'll see how to pangia.
Sickle Cell Awareness Month. Yes.
We'll see how to pangia for that. Yeah. But thank you so much. And enjoy the episode, the season, the day, the month, wherever you are. Thank you for watching. Bye.